The Ontario NDP is bringing concerns from school boards about budget deficits and reduced student supports to Queen's Park. There is Leader Marit Stiles. Let's listen in.
Conservatives are leaving Ontario's schools and students high and dry. To add insult to injury, because our schools and our students were already hurting, the Independent Financial Accountability Office has found that this government failed to allocate $600 million in COVID-19 response funds. And this government underspent its education budget by $432 million in this current fiscal year. Because this government chose to withhold those funds, school boards are now looking to lay off hundreds of staff at a time when our students need more support than ever. I talk to parents every day who cannot believe that the government has made this choice. We are seeing the impacts of this in the rise in school violence and also the increased mental health needs among our students. This afternoon, we're going to be debating a motion in the Legislative Assembly imploring this government to reimburse school boards for their pandemic-related expenses. This includes materials, supplies, but also the programs and infrastructure needed to support students who endured 3 years of disrupted learning. This government has the funds necessary to do this. Instead of spending it on backroom deals or insider friends, let's invest those dollars in our students. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to MPP Pasma to say a few words.
Thank you so much, Marit. As Marit said, our children are really struggling after a historic pandemic, and what we're not seeing is the kind of funding that's needed to address the situation. In fact, the government is spending $2.5 billion less on education this year than they would have if funding had just kept pace with inflation since 2018. That's more than $800 less per student. The Financial Accountability Office has said that over the next 6 years, the government's funding commitments represent a $6 billion gap in what is needed just to maintain the system, not even to provide the additional supports that our children need as they're struggling. And the government has paid less than half of the COVID-related expenditures that school boards needed to put in place over the past year just to keep our kids safe and ensure that they kept learning. And this means that school boards had to pay really large amounts out of their own reserves to protect our children. The Toronto District School Board paid $70 million out of their own reserves. The Toronto Catholic District School Board paid $60 million. The Ottawa Carleton District School Board paid $10 million. And so now we're seeing immense need among our children, an incredible need for more supports, more teachers, smaller class sizes, educational assistance to support our kids, more mental health supports in the classroom. And instead, school boards are going to be forced to implement cuts this year. So the TDSB is looking at cuts of $64 million. The Toronto Catholic District School Board is looking to cut $25 million. The Ottawa Carleton District School Board is going to have to cut somewhere between $9 million and $39 million. And that means instead of getting the supports they need, our kids are going to lose even more support. The TDSB is going to have to cut 522 positions in order to eliminate that deficit. That's teachers lost, that's EAs lost, that's child and youth workers lost at a moment when kids are really struggling with their mental health. That's school safety monitors lost when we know violence is increasing in our schools. The Toronto Catholic District School Board is looking at losing 120 positions, and the OCDSB isn't quite as far along in their staffing process, but they know for academic positions alone, they're going to lose 21 teachers, and that includes potentially 7 literacy and numeracy support teachers and coaches, along with another 6 learning support teachers. So who is going to help our kids make up for their learning loss as we are cutting these positions from our school boards? And it's the kids who need help the most who are going to pay the price for these cuts. It's going to hurt the kids who have accessibility needs. It's going to hurt the kids who are experiencing mental health challenges. It's going to mean a loss of congregate or special class placements for kids who have disabilities. It's really unacceptable, as Marit says, that at a moment when the government is sitting on money, they are allowing these cuts to take place and our children to suffer. And to speak about the impact on the TDSB, I'm going to invite Trustee Matias Didovidas.
Thank you.
Okay, so we were just listening to an update from the Ontario, or I should say a news conference from the Ontario NDP. where they were discussing concerns from school boards about budget deficits and reduced student supports. And they'll be speaking about that more at Queen's Park this afternoon.